Oh,
This
I just would like to say thank you, Dave. Thank you.
so I'm going to be controversial. You're not going to like
Oh
what I'm going to say.
shit! Is this about to end?
Ahsoka is Ahsoka is a good show. It is. Andor's clears it. Andor clears it. And this is simply, I think, an objective thing. I don't actually think this is a subjective thing. I
Yeah.
think the writing, cinematography, and acting of Andor is all better. However, I can fully accept people preferring Ahsoka because of the connection with other projects. You don't watch Star Wars for the best writing and the best acting and the best directing. You watch it because it's a cool universe and you know all the characters and you love their connected lives. But I think Andor is the better show, but it is absolutely fine to prefer something else. And people seem to be struggling with that concept.
I don't know if I agree that Andor is better. I would more say I think they are both equally as good in how they've been made, and it comes down to a preference of if you enjoy more of the mysticism side of Star Wars, or if you enjoy like what Andor gives. I think they're both
Hmm.
well written around the things that they're focused on.
Potentially. Interesting. Hmm. Um, but this episode was definitely I do think there was a slight pacing issue.
uh,
Bearing in
it
mind they haven't got a second season greenlit.
so it did kind of everything I expected to happen. And actually, how I think it always was paced to happen. I think, I don't get me wrong, and I agree, with no season two greenlit, it's Dave playing a bold hand of, I'm going to purposefully leave this paced for a season two, even though I haven't got one.
Yeah.
And I think that just shows how confident he was in the show. But I I think it's guaranteed there was always going to be a season two, realistically.
I don't know. Have you seen how much more money these writers are asking for?
But I would say I was okay with the pacing because it's kind of what I expected it to do and how I expected it to kind of end. Um, I will say that I feel like there was so many things throughout the season that we've talked about that people have been predicting, that people have wanted like all these little kind of ties to other stuff or Easter eggs. I feel like Dave finally paid them all off in the finale, which felt good.
Yeah.
There was a lot of payoff moments where the fans got what they kind of wanted to see, and I do think Dave has created a brilliant show for like the deep Star Wars fans that love sort of the wilder, like less canon stuff. If
Yeah.
that makes sense.
It's definitely interesting. Um, because my issues with the pacing, I think, stem from we ended last week with we need to get back to the ship. Not the ship, sorry, the castle thing. And Shin ran off to hunt down Balin or work out what the fuck was going on.
Yeah, she ran off.
And it feels like the start of this episode was okay. We know where they are. Let's go kill them. So they send out the Tie fighters. Then it's
Mm.
the Tie fighters attack the ship. The ship goes down, and then they're like, "Well, we don't have to be slowed down." And then they just get on some wolves and get there anyway. It kind of feels like they try to paint the ship getting broken as an obstacle to getting there
Hmm.
that they overcame instantly. When in reality, the ship getting damaged was just for at the end of it, then not being a way for them to easily get onto the ship.
Yeah, I do
And
think.
that's kind of like disjointed storytelling that I think if you would have added a little bit more from them oh no, the ship's broken, what do we do, to arriving, you can probably play off the ship getting damaged as a
So
more substantial plot point.
I will agree that I think the whole ship and TIE fighters thing wasn't the best. Like, my issues with it is, one, why did the TIE fighter not try and steer out the way? He just went, and did nothing. Two, the TIE fighters got absolutely destroyed, but the ship didn't really get that badly damaged. It just went down. And I feel actually what would have been, and I think, like you say, it was to set up the whole thing at the end where they're trying to get to the ship, but they don't have the power. Realistically, it should have been a case of um, the ship's fucked. Like, it's broken, like, they can't leave it at that. And then it would have left more tense of, like, how the hell did they get off this tower? We know the ship's just like broken, but they obviously were setting up for like that, like, final
Ace.
chase. Yeah. Which I didn't hate. Obviously, we all knew the outcome was going to be that Thrawn escaped. I feel like that was kind of, as the episode was going on, it's like, okay, Thrawn's going to escape. Maybe they could have kind of worked it a little better in places.
And that's the only reason I consider it a pacing issue. Because I don't think what they were trying to do was wrong. I just think they had to get too much of it done in too short a period of time. I don't think they necessarily need another episode. Just make each episode 10 minutes longer and shuffle stuff a little bit, and you can probably get what you want just fine.
Mm, yeah, I think it worked though. It worked all right. It wasn't as rushed as we've seen like the MCU stuff feel like
No,
for
no,
hours.
definitely not. But it is still a problem we're seeing over at the old Disney Plus studios with just
Yeah.
every project seems to need another 40 minutes, hour of storytelling to get us where we need to be. And it's almost like, well, you've already paid for 9 hours of shows, just find the extra 40 minutes.
I would say, yeah, I agree. It could, like, always feels like it could do with like a little extra. I think in the case of this, like Ahsoka, I think the ship situation and that being the pacing issue, I'm happy to have that because of the other things we got this episode, story
100%.
wise. Like
100%.
the other payoffs with the different story elements, I can overlook a bit of a weird thing with like my opinion on how the ship stuff happened.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, we kick off the episode with Morgan getting thanked by the Night Mothers,
Yeah.
and getting her, I don't know, not
Upgrade.
powers, but yeah, getting like getting blessed into the sisterhood.
Yeah. And she also got given your woman from Clone Wars' sword, didn't she?
The blade of Talzin, which is the same
Yes.
sword that Mother Talzin, who is the other Night Mother we've seen in the past, in, like you say, in Clone Wars, she used that to fight Mace Windu.
Yes.
So then it was a different hilt design than what was in that show, but obviously I'm guessing they're calling it the blade of Talzin because it's like imbued with energy. They're all
Yeah.
connected with the weird magic. Okay.
Magic.
I thought it was very cool though to see that blade and get that tie and kind
Yes.
of get something like that in live action that ties us again back to the animated Clone Wars.
I do have one minor question.
Okay.
Well, I might have just missed something.
Go on.
Do we have any idea where Ezra got that kyber crystal from?
No. So that's been a bit of a debate online as to.
Because at first I thought it was going to be like Ahsoka's backup. And
So
she was like, fuck it, you need a lightsaber here, have my kyber crystal from my second.
I guess it kind of depends how we look at this. Either when he switched, because he had a blue lightsaber,
Yeah.
and then he made a new one and it was green. Now, I can't remember if we saw the fact that like he took the kyber crystal from his old one and put it in the new one. Whether if that was shown or not, I can't remember. If it wasn't, maybe it's his original kyber crystal that he had.
Did he
But
keep
then,
that thing on him though?
uh, wouldn't surprise me. I think people are definitely going like, oh well, Huyang knew how important it was for a Jedi to connect with a kyber crystal. He's not just going to have a drawer full of them.
Yeah.
My only thought is, yes, I get that he wouldn't, but also you've got to remember Ahsoka's over the years probably ended up with some lightsabers and different things from people she's fought. It's not wild to believe that maybe she has ended up with some kyber crystals from fallen Jedi or
Yeah.
from whatever.
It just kind of felt a bit weird for him to go, I don't need a lightsaber, I have the force, to open episode he's building a lightsaber.
Yeah, I think that was him. The whole thing of him being like, I don't need a lightsaber, I think was meant to be more like making sure Sabine keeps it. He just didn't want to
Yes.
take it back off her.
That is
I
definitely like how I took it even at the time.
Because
Um
last week we talked about I was expecting him to end up on the ship and maybe get Kanan's. We
yeah.
pretty much got that payoff because
Yes.
he rebuilt a version of Kanan's, which I was very hyped about. As soon as he was building, and then they start talking about Kanan, or Caleb, as Hugh Yang remembers him. And then he was like, I was like, oh shit, he's looking for the top piece. He's gonna just rebuild Kanan's lightsaber, and then yeah, you got the payoff
I
of
I enjoyed the comment of no, that'll make it too narrow.
yes, which is a very meta comment to all the
Yes.
flack that Rebels got about your lightsabers look really narrow.
Which
Um,
ironically was my favourite part about Rebels.
yeah, they had their own style of.
Overall I poured Clone Wars character design,
Mm,
but the lightsabers being a bit thinner felt really good.
yeah, I didn't hate it, and it's like I'm glad that Dave can kind of slip that in there, so kind of poke fun at themselves. But yeah, it was cool to see him build Kanan's. I think it's one of those things we're just gonna have to overlook where the kyber crystal came from. Maybe in some interview down the line, Dave will be like, "Oh, well, he kind of kept one," or like he'll just make some passing like explanation. He'll probably just make up on the spot.
The
Um,
the
it's
the thing
fine.
is we had a really easy opportunity to do this because we know Balin has one on his belt.
Hmm.
You
He could
could
have
have
just
just had
pulled it
them
out of a
to
chain. Like he could have had one on a
yeah,
chain.
you could have literally just had the start of that scene be him entering it, and he takes, like you said, his kyber crystal that was from his original lightsaber out
Mhm.
from under a shirt. It was on a necklace, and then we aren't even having this conversation.
Yeah, people would just be like, "Oh, like people would be like, okay, he had a kyber crystal," but like then people are like, "Oh, maybe it was his old one. Maybe he found a new one." Like people would just come up with
Yeah,
where it came from, but they'd be like, "Oh, okay, he just had one." They'd be a bit more accepting of it. I agree. I think like just a simple thing like that would have answered that, but it's
but
one of
yes, I
them.
agree. It was very cool to see him build a lightsaber.
And it
The
became
back and
its
forth between him and Huang was brilliant.
yeah. And then them realizing, hang on a second, how old are you, Huang?
Yeah,
Like realizing
my
that,
man
oh,
is
old,
old.
yeah. Um, so that was a very cool moment. Then what we are trying to remember others where we went from there.
After that was Thrawn saying it's time for us to go.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Then
yeah.
Enoch goes, right, we know where they are, and he goes, send out two TIE fighters.
Yeah, which they send the two TIE fighters, which like we said, does the whole bit of a fight. Ship ends up beached.
Yes.
Oh no, go on wolves. Um, and then we get we also then get the night troopers that volunteered,
Yes.
which you like. Obviously, I probably would have expected Thrawn to just command them to do, but I guess because, as we later find out, it was for some ritual. Maybe they have to be willing for that for it to work. Is one fear or something.
Maybe.
Like also maybe they just was like he wanted the ones that are willing to have that done to them, let
Yeah.
them volunteer forward. When there was that and the Night Mothers, I was like, is, are we gonna get some weird shit here? Some blessing shit? Uh, we got the payoff. We got the reanimated troopers, which was many theories when we first saw them. Then obviously people were like, oh, they're just normal troopers. But then like Dave paid off in the final. He's given us the reanimated, as well as like full on zombie troopers as well. So we
It,
got double payoff.
it's so interesting to me because obviously zombie troopers up until now have not been in Star Wars canon. That's
Nope.
a Legends thing,
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
So it's so funny to me seeing the different parts of the Star Wars fandom because you got people online going, "Why is everyone so hyped over these weird fucking zombie troopers? This is so
Yeah.
dumb. It doesn't even make any sense." It's like, well, it's a Legends thing, and I think that's a very clear dividing line between the people who like the Mandoverse and people who
Yeah.
don't. The
Yeah.
Mandoverse is very much for people who enjoy Legends books already,
Mm-hmm.
or are at least aware of it and intrigued by it. Like, I've not read any of the Legends stuff, but I'm intrigued by it, and Luke knows a lot about it, so he's
Yeah.
obviously answered any questions I have. So I'm like, okay, cool, that makes sense. I get it. Um,
Well, it's there's a lot of legend stuff that there's this weird middle bit, which is like kind of where I am, which is I know of certain legend stories that are cool ones that people want to come to canon or have for a long time. And it's like that, where like there's a lot of really cool specific things that people are like, okay, this is really cool. We need this in canon because it's like such. And one of them was the whole zombie thing, which is from Operation Blackwing, I think, which is like
yeah,
was zombie troopers. People got excited about that in Mando when we saw the helmet where Zeb was, and it had like claw marks, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, is that a Project Blackwing thing? Is this hints of zombie troopers?" And then obviously when we got Night Mothers in Ahsoka, and everyone knows that they can from the games,
reanimate.
yeah, they can reanimate and essentially have zombie like make zombies. Obviously, everyone got excited for the possibility, and Dave to finally kind of add that into canon is a very cool little payoff. Um, and we saw Sabine slowly getting more and more of a kind of connection to unlocking that connection to the Force, which I thought was very cool. I like how they did it, and they essentially it was anytime Ezra was in danger is when she got the connection, and sort of
It's
like that's what unlocked it for her.
yeah. See, I view it as it was a mental block because she didn't feel like she was worthy, and she managed to get over it to get a lightsaber when it was like you've got to do it or you and your friend die.
Hmm.
And then I think after that, it was a kind of, okay, I need to believe myself. And then when Ezra was like, okay, I trust you,
Yeah.
she was like, okay, I've got this.
Yeah,
Um,
I think because we also got the bit of information from Hu Yang to Ezra as to what happened, and it was that Ahsoka stopped the training because she was worried she'd turn like Anakin did. She
yeah.
obviously saw something that she feared is the same thing that happened to Anakin, and didn't want that obviously to happen
And
to
in
Sabine.
reality, it was probably just that Mandalorian gusto.
Yeah, and also just the fact that Ahsoka kind of was projecting what she was still fearing without like hadn't worked through that stuff. So I think that happening to Sabine caused a block. And like you say, Ezra trusting her, Ahsoka now putting more trust into her, and it's like all these things were happening. It kind of like she pushed past that
But that
block.
this is also a recurring theme all the way back from Rebels, where when she had the dark saber and they were training her,
Mm,
and Kanan got really wound up because she was just so Mandalorian. She wasn't let opening herself up to the Force.
yep.
She was so like stiff, and it's an extension of that. It's clearly something she was already struggling with,
Mm-hmm.
and then she sees her entire homeworld get decimated, which is enough to turn most people to the dark side.
Yeah.
And then her master loses all faith in her, and she doesn't have her friend anymore to fall back on.
Mm-hmm.
Because like even if we think back to Rebels, when she was at her best with the dark saber, was when Ezra kind of went, "Let me try Kanan," and he was
Yeah.
able to help her
Train with
because
her.
he
Yeah.
thought about who she was. So it is very much a case of Ezra manages to get the best out of her and get her to actually
Yeah.
relax and open herself up to the Force a little bit more. Um, so it's not really a surprise that him just having a bit of faith in her was enough to
Mm-hmm.
open it because we know she's smart enough and she gets it. And like we've seen it coming with repeated attempts to use the Force,
Yeah.
and how much her combat has shifted from blasters to lightsaber
Hmm.
because she's just feeling more
More
comfortable and
yeah.
natural with it. And we know that lightsabers are literally an extension of a Jedi, and the Jedi who are the most
Yeah.
powerful with the Force tend to be good duelers.
It was, yeah, exactly. And it's like, it was very cool to slowly see her, like, she was starting to deflect blaster shots when the troopers reanimated and stuff. And it's like, she was slowly getting more comfortable. It was very cool that, like, the moment that she is able to force pull her lightsaber to her is to defeat a zombie. I thought it was very cool. The fact that you've got a zombie trying to munch at your face in a trooper outfit, and then you just lightsaber to the side of the head. Not use standard
Very,
Star
very
Wars
cool.
stuff. But
Very,
there
very
was,
cool.
I think there was a point nearer the end where she was finally starting to do saber. Well, sorry, when she stays on the platform to help Ahsoka, you see her finally actually using blaster and saber very comfortably, and it's like, okay, now she's a Mando with force
The
powers.
Cal Kestis stance, if you will.
Yeah, she's got the Mando and the Jedi are for merging to be one, which is going to be very cool for the future.
Yes, very much so. But the big reveal,
The big reveal.
the two-pronged big reveal,
Okay.
is, of course, Thrawn and Ezra are now back in our universe, and
The
everyone
old
else is
Uno
stuck in the other
reverse
one.
has happened.
Yeah. The TikTok that I think we've all seen and discussed, the scammer get scammed one.
Yeah, and it's literally
Um,
every single person from the other galaxy because Morgan died on this planet. So
yeah,
it's like,
yeah. No one has ended the series where they stayed.
hmm,
And of course, them bloody statues, them big
okay.
bad mountain boys.
Before
We
we
knew
get
we knew this was coming, though, didn't
before
we?
we
Let's be
get to
honest.
that and dive into that, because I have a new theory from
Okay.
since last week. But just before that, we'll touch on the Ahsoka Morgan fight. I actually think I would say one of the top three fights in Star Wars, choreography wise. It was really, I really enjoyed the way that that fight was put together.
So I've seen a lot of dislike for the choreography of the fighting in this episode. And some of it I get. Not
Mm,
I don't necessarily agree with, but I understand where the criticisms are coming from. The problem is our generation grew up with the prequels, which was a lot of flash,
yeah,
and very over the top. And then that was continued in the Clone Wars, where it's even easier to be flashy and over the top.
yeah,
And it's tricky because part of me is always like, when you see the Jedi's doing all their spins, you're like, well, eventually someone's just got to stand still and wait for them to turn their back again and just fucking slice them. So, like, this is more like there's two ways I view Star Wars lightsaber battles.
hmm,
So you've got like the Duel of the Fates, and I forget what the name of the battle on Mustafar is.
yeah. I know what
Um,
you mean.
which is very much flashy, looks fucking awesome. You feel like a child on a sugar rush just going, yes.
Hmm.
But then you've also got like the Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul in Rebels and this, which are
Hmm.
very much like it feels like chess.
Yes.
It feels like people who know they are very evenly weighted against each other.
Hmm.
And so they're actually, yes, they're swinging their lightsaber as an attack, but it's actually to move them into a position that benefits them more and stuff like that. I personally enjoy both styles, and I can tell when each style is necessary. I think, however, one of the big issues that people have, and I do think is a valid concern from fans, is when Ahsoka has always been in Rebels and Clone Wars, and she is this big, spinny, high flying character. To have her come into live action and then for basically the entire series be more of a chess style combatant is quite a big jump for people. And instead
Yeah.
of understanding that it's like a creative decision, they view it as a quality problem.
Yeah, I think people are not taking into account what Ahsoka's gone through when we haven't seen her to
Yes.
lead her to fight more like this. I'm with you. I do enjoy the flashy stuff. Obviously, like Anakin does the spin, everyone goes, "Oh my god, he did the thing!" Like there's a play, like it's there, and it's part of Star Wars, like the flashiness and the kind of like unnecessary moves, but they just look cool.
Yeah.
Um, but I do very much enjoy this kind of new age of the fights where they are well choreographed fights from like a production side of things, and it's like they for like a lot of people might not quite appreciate them, but like when you see a well choreographed fight, it just looks cool to watch. And having um the actress that plays Morgan, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure is some relation to Bruce Lee.
Oh, that's crazy.
I'm pretty sure I read something, or it's that, or the fight choreographer was related to Bruce Lee. It's one or the other, but basically, that knows how to do a fight sequence. They both do, and like it was so well put together. And like Ahsoka eventually then like Morgan realizes, oh shit, Sabine's here, gets a bit more angry, lets down her guard a bit, like you say, like chess. Ahsoka realizes that and ends up with the whole slashing her in the stomach. I thought it was a very cool like end to that little sequence.
Yeah.
But overall, I thought it was a very enjoyable fight.
Now, another thing, before we get into the Balon arc,
Yeah.
which is very interesting. So, do you remember 3 weeks ago? Might be 4 weeks ago, when
Okay.
we arrived on this new planet in this new galaxy,
Yes.
and I sat here
Mm-hmm.
and I said, "This has got a very different vibe. Like our old universe is the West, with a lot of its inspirations being European,
Yeah.
and then this is a lot more like the East."
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at the design choices made, and you've got Ahsoka swords, which
Mm-hmm.
are quite unique. Some might even
Yeah.
say Japanese influence in them.
Katana-esque. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you've got her robes, which are again clearly quite inspired by Japanese culture
Mm-hmm.
and samurai.
Yeah.
And then you have Thrawn refer to her as a Ronin.
Yes. I I don't think you're wrong at all. It's
No,
Dave being very clever. Obviously, a lot of Star Wars Jedi have pulled from samurai.
yes, they
So
pulled from all of them ancient kind
yes,
of things,
Masters of
but
Blades.
this kind of leads into my point about Balin and stuff. So we've spoken
Okay.
about how Balin and Shin are very much designed like knights, like
Yes.
medieval
Yes.
soldiers with the way their armor sits. And then you've got Shin,
Hmm.
sorry, not Shin, Ahsoka, who is very much like we said, Japanese feudal kind of style, in
Yeah.
everything that she's designed. And then what you've essentially got is one side is attacking the other side
Hmm.
because of their differences on things.
Hmm.
It kind of feels like good old Star Wars. It's political stories that everyone already knows being told with flashy lights. It
Yeah.
is it is the British, the European knights coming and trying to dominate the East and take their ancient artifacts and the stuff that's hidden deep in the mountains, and
Yeah. I mean, that's always kind of, in a way, been the whole
it's
Sith
always
versus
there.
Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always there. But I do like the little Ronin comment because it also then ties into like Ronin are samurai with no like without masters. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, Ahsoka no longer has a master. He knows what he said is like him also pushing at her. Like he also in that same like bit where he's contacting, like talking to her before he jumps, is like I knew your master, I knew how you would be. Like basically being like, I know what the fuck your master became.
Yeah.
And you are Ronin because I know you no longer have a master. And it's like, you will stay here. Um, I think
Yeah.
that also to add on to that moment, Ezra getting onto the ship. as soon as there was a dead stormtrooper next to him, he's on a ship alone. Then there's a comms link comes through, and he picks it
Yeah.
up in Ezra fashion, answers it, drags the body. I was like, okay, he's putting on the suit. He's
Absolutely.
classic Ezra, gonna hide as a trooper. Um,
What else could he do? Sorry, it was the only option.
yeah, exactly. I like that again. Like I said, they've paid off a lot of things of like fans
I
were excited about tie-ins to Rebels
I
and stuff.
I don't know how we've got through the Empire and the First Order without them at any point realizing not being able to see our generic soldiers' faces is gonna cause a problem.
Yep. Um, but I thought, yeah, that whole like little speech from Thrawn at the end was
Very
yes,
Thrawn.
yeah, very Thrawn and also very clever wording from Dave.
100%.
Um, and then yeah, they get
But yeah,
left behind. We have a little brief moment with um Ahsoka looking off into the distance. Sabine senses something. Now,
yeah,
this to me, this is like, is it the Force she senses? Is it something else? Um, was it like, did she briefly sense Anakin because his Force ghost was around? It could have been anything. Is it the same thing that's calling to Balin that she sensed? Um, but then we also, yeah, we got Force Ghost Anakin. Ahsoka gives him a little nod. And then we also got the owl. The owl is back again.
yes,
And
it is.
Ahsoka follows seeing the owl with "We're right where we should be," realizing that okay, yeah, we were supposed to stay here, or the Force wants me to be here. Ezra had to go; he had to get home. That's where he needed to be, and then it leads to the well, we see Ezra return. We will see the Thrawn return,
Yeah.
flying towards Dathomir.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there was a comment earlier on where Ezra was asked about the tower, and he was like, Thrawn seeked it out, woke up the Night Mothers, and built all this. I have a new theory I've seen about those caskets. It's not dead
Okay.
bodies. They're
Okay.
like cryo tubes.
Ah,
And he came along and was like, huh, what's in these? Opened it up, Night Mother. And they're going back to Dathomir. Could that
so it's
just be a
not
bunch of tubes of Night Brothers and Night Sisters?
to be his army.
Yes, because someone worked out from the scene where you see the cargo full of them. Someone roughly worked out the maths that there'd be about 60,000 caskets. It's quite a lot of people.
That's a lot of Night brothers and
It
sisters.
was some big number. So would not like them going to Dathomir. He's 100% they're rebuilding Dathomir. Um, which means in a season 2 we might see like some old Night Mother temple like we saw in Clone Wars. The one we saw in Clone Wars, they could
Yep.
go back there because there'll be relics and different things. Um, I thought it's very cool that we might actually get some live action Dathomir in the future,
I really hope we do. Dathomir is awesome.
and then we get the Balin ending.
Yes, sir. I was getting to this point in this where I was like, are we really just not going to see anything again from
I
Balin?
I at this point I was like, okay, they are doing what I thought they were going to do, which is they're going to tease us with something about Balin and leave it at that, which is a shame, very much so, because obviously Ray Stevenson is no longer with us, and it's left it in such a very open ended. What the fuck is next? And it's a shame that he's not going to get to complete that story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, although his
Um,
performance has been amazing.
his performance is stunning. And I mean, folks just has to turn to getting the correct person to overtake the role and see if they can do it justice.
Yeah.
Because you can't just not do it.
No.
It would be wrong to try and CGI it.
Yeah.
Find a good actor who can do the role as well as he can.
And I think they will, and he'll
I'm
make
sure so.
sure. But yeah, we get Balin standing on almost looks like the top of a mountain at first.
Yeah,
And there's a glinting light in the distance, looking at a mountain range, and then it pans, and in like almost Lord of the Rings fashion statue, he stood on the arm of the father. And we've talked many times through this season of, is it something linked with the Mortis gods, the father, the son, and the daughter? Obviously, we know Ahsoka has the daughter's force energy in her.
yeah,
Anakin was believed to have taken over from the father. But then, yeah, it's a statue of the father, quite clearly the father, got the son to its left, and then a broken statue with a chasm between it that looks like where the daughter would be. Um, which has got everyone very excited. And
yes.
do you
So,
know what the theory is?
okay, horizontal. You forget that I'm a master when it comes to Google. Do
Okay.
you think I would have turned up today without having a little
I
bit? Let me talk about it, and then you can fill in
okay.
anything on this. So
Okay.
basically, there's this psycho bitch called Abeloth, who
Yes.
was slave henchman-y thing for the Mortis gods. She then wanted to become a god like them and kind of have a fuck ton of power. So she bathed in the dark waters and she drank from the tree of life, light or whatever. And instead of becoming a celestial like the Mortis gods, she became a demonic thing that was crazy powerful and dangerous. And then only through the balance of the force
Mm,
could she be kept in her prisony thing. Um, which is why the Mortis gods are so important and why balance to the force is so important, because she is essentially the end of worlds if shit goes wrong. Um, and which is why it's a little bit concerning that the daughter statue was destroyed, because does that mean that there's currently balance in the force the wrong way, and the prison that's holding Abeloth is getting a bit shaky, a little bit, oi, and she's gonna break out and start wreaking in havoc. Am I
pretty
right
much.
around the right spot?
Pretty much, yeah. So obviously, like the last couple of weeks, we were leaning more like, is it Bendu? Is it something from like the Wellspring? Theories have been popping up about Aboleth, and then I looked into it more, and then obviously before that was in between, and then we got the finale and everything. So yeah, you're right. Aboleth was a normal human being that was kind of brought to the Mortis gods took in. She obviously was she had a very good understanding of how the sun worked. So the sun felt very close to her and would kind of behave, and she slowly like took on this mantle of the mother. She kind of became the
Got ya.
mother of the four of them because she could control the sun. She kind of helped with the balance, kept him like enough level headed. Obviously, though, like you say, she got old. She wanted to know, she didn't want to die. So she thought, oh, I can drink from the eternal waters or whatever they are, thinking she could become one of them. And then, yeah, she is corrupted. She essentially becomes this great Sith power. Like, she has incredible Sith energy. The Force corrupted. So she became corrupted. And through that, the Mortis gods trapped her. They She was going to wreak havoc. The Mortis guards were able to control her, but the three of needed the three of them, and they were able to trap her and imprison her. There's stories and legends of like when the Mortis gods were gone. Obviously, then that force wavered and she came back. Aboleth is a crazy powerful like Sith being. Would call to people, call to Force users, would bring them in, when she was imprisoned, but she had some like was able like I think the control of her was weakening. She was able to call to people, bring them, make them avatars of her. She would corrupt them, and they would become avatars of Aboleth, and often they would roam around the galaxies and would cause havoc.
Yeah.
So it all is like when you think back to Dave Filoni brought the Mortis gods in Clone Wars, like it makes total sense that this is Aboleth. Um, it all ties together. And like you say, the statue of the daughter being broken, I actually don't think so. There's different theories as to like what's it imbalance here. Because obviously the daughter died, which would explain why the the daughter side is broken. You could say that that part of the Mortis gods is gone, but it was transferred into Ahsoka, and Ahsoka is still with us. Then you have Anakin was the theory and understanding was Anakin became the father, he became the balance. Now, technically, Anakin is gone. He's Force Ghost now, so it's like, does he still have that power? Like,
Influence.
yeah, is he still able to influence and hold the position of the father? Then people are like, okay, maybe Balin's the son. I lean to Balin could be this like the son because if Aboleth is calling to him, the connection that the son and the mother had would make sense why Balin's getting called. He also like knew Anakin is a bit more Sith leaning, and that side of the Force. Also, he made comments of to Shin that I've trained you for something more. When you look at artwork of Aboleth, often depicted as a woman with the huge toothy grin and white
Yeah,
hair, almost very similar looking to how Shin would look. Uh, Theory, maybe Shin has been trained and he's going to offer up for it to be an avatar of Aboleth. Maybe
interesting.
that's how they bring Aboleth in, because it's kind of hard if Dave unlocks this thing of like, here's this crazy powerful Sith being. Um, it's a difficult one to balance out, story wise. So he needs to be careful with it, I think.
Yeah.
But there's
I guess Balaam being the version of the sun currently makes sense as to why him and Ahsoka couldn't best each other.
yeah,
Despite everything we know about Ahsoka suggesting that she should be able to deal with him even if he was a general in the Clone Wars, it would explain why she couldn't beat him and why he was so confident that she couldn't beat him.
mm, yeah.
Um,
There's a
it's an
lot
interesting
of
one.
it. All comes back to the Mortis gods. I think some people were like, "Oh, they're actually on Mortis. Like they're gonna go find the Mortis gods." No, because I think the Mortis gods existed on a place that was not in any galaxy. It was somewhere in between, like like in the realm of the Force. I think if anything, it's maybe more likely that yes, this could be a place where they imprisoned Aboleth. Maybe there's some artifact. Maybe if Dave doesn't want to actually add in Aboleth, maybe there's some artifact of her that is going to corrupt Shin or corrupt Balin.
So there is another theory I saw that I don't hold a lot of weight to,
Okay,
but it'd be rude of us not to discuss it.
go on.
That if we assume Anakin is the father
Yeah,
and Ahsoka is the daughter,
yeah,
then maybe another Anakin apprentice, maybe a male, is the son.
maybe.
Maybe a star killer.
This is
I've
another
seen a lot
theory.
of I've seen a lot of people gagging for this to be a way to bring in a star killer. The only problem
Yes,
with bringing Star Killer in is the only way you can work is if you nerf him into the motherfucking ground, and then people are just going to be angry they've not done it right.
you say this, but realistically, if they're going to add in Aboleth,
Maybe
adding
we
in
need
some,
Star Killer.
yeah, maybe we need Starkiller, and his power would make sense. I have also seen that theory, and I do know that Dave does like Dave wants to try and bring Starkiller in. He likes Starkiller, and
It's a tricky one to pull
he
off.
wants Sam Witwer to be Starkiller. But it's one, finding a way to bring him in. Two, then it being explaining like where the fuck was Starkiller all this? Like where like how have we not known about
But
this?
also, is there not a massive storytelling problem with Star Killer in the sense of he had multiple different endings depending on user decisions? So
Well, yeah,
how do you
basically
it ruins the legacy of Starkiller in the game slightly if
yes.
you go. It's the big reason, as stupid as it sounds, but that it lines. It's the big reason, despite fans calling for it, that we never got a GTA 5 movie because it's like
Mm,
right, well, when we decide what ending to do, if that doesn't align with
mhm.
how you played the game,
It's not the
you're
end.
going to feel
Yeah.
like you got stiffed out.
I think, yeah, I think unfortunately, if they do bring Starkiller in, the games are probably going to get sacrificed as not fully canon, and it'll have to be some new. Like Dave will do his representation of where Starkiller's story has been, leaning on it, but it won't be accurate to the games because, like you say, different endings. Also, like it's been a while, and if Dave wants to work this in properly, it's gonna be his. It's got to be worked in to make sense. I wouldn't be against the son being Starkiller. I'm very intrigued, like how Dave pulls off adding Aboleth in, because obviously this show is him leaning very much into the mysticism of the Force and a lot more of that, which I have loved, and I know a lot of Star Wars fans have loved. But for the general like global audience of Star Wars, this is like more on the like unknown, like people like the general Star Wars fans might be a bit like, what the fuck is all this weird shit that's going on? And to then just chuck out, oh, there's this crazy powerful like being. Um, yeah, would be interesting, especially as well in the legend stories of Aboleth. Luke actually is the one of the ones that helps defeat Aboleth. And I mean, Luke is
Mm,
about like we know Luke's about. He's busy. He's been training Grogu, so like he's so then. But then you're getting into this realm of are you really going to bring?
oh my god, that's how they're going to fix the sequels.
So
Luke's
this
gonna go help stop Aboleth, and that's what's gonna change Luke from being the person who believes in the light in everyone to this person who's seen pure darkness that is unsavable, and then he sees it in Ben, and then that's why he's like, nah, this guy gotta die. And that's what creates Kylo Ren. This is a ballsy way to go, Dave. Let's see if it pays off.
there is a lot of theories like that though, where like Dave's like the people are like, is this Dave trying to kind of rewrite the sequels a little bit and fix them even more?
Try and
Like,
fix the characterizations that made no sense.
is he gonna like use things that he's been building up? Because he's quite like you can't tell me that when he added the Mortis gods in, he didn't know of Aboleth and all that stuff. Like he's read all that material, like he knows. Like there's definitely something where he's like, oh, maybe I can actually pay off on these Mortis gods now. Um, it's it's going to be interesting because, like we said at the beginning, no season two confirmed. I am pretty certain with the reception Ahsoka has actually got, it's been a very positive reception. Everyone has seemed to love it from what I've seen. It'll get a season two. I know that Dave will be fighting for a season two. I know that the actress that plays Ahsoka, I'm forgetting her name right now.
Rosario Dawson.
Yeah, she really wants to keep playing as Ahsoka. But there's a lot of the people on that created it want to make more.
Bearing in mind they've greenlit a Mandoverse film,
Yes,
if
which is
Dave
Dave's film.
goes, there needs to be another series before the film. They're kind of backed into a corner where they either have to cancel the film and go, no, you're not getting another series, or they kind of have to agree to both. There's
I
not really another way to do it.
I think when Dave Pitt like wanted to do the Ahsoka show, I'm pretty sure he was like, yeah, this whole Mando thing, like, probably gonna need 2 seasons of Ahsoka. Then we'll get to like the point where we can do the film. And they've gone, okay, do season one. We'll see how it does. And it's kind of like that's what they said to him, but he's probably already put it out there that there was gonna be like they need a second one. I see season two. If they were to do season two, I see it leaning like it's going to become season two is going to be Ahsoka chasing Balin and all that shit that's going on there. I don't actually think we get to see much of what happened. Where maybe we'll see a bit of like Ezra and Hera and explaining stuff. Like there'll be some of that going on, like them trying to figure out where the fuck Thrawn went, like what. Well, they'll know that he went to Dathomir because Ezra was on the ship, but like trying to figure that out. It's going to heavily lean, I think, into what Ahsoka has to deal with.
I think a lot more of our universe side of stuff is more likely to be dealt with in a potential Mandalorian season 4.
Yes, I agree.
And then
Um,
Ahsoka will be dealing with this world that we're stuck on, Balin, and then Ahsoka season 2 ends with them coming back to the start of the Mandoverse film.
Yeah. Or I hate to say this as a theory, but if Ahsoka is the daughter and that's her power, and this is Aboleth in a prison, there's a world where Ahsoka doesn't ever come back from that planet because
And she has to stay there
she
and
has
guard
to
it.
stay there to keep Aboleth at bay.
Well,
And then that's Dave's way of explaining where Ahsoka never showed up in
put
future
it this
stuff.
way, there are some very real things we need to accept are going to have to happen soon.
Mm-hmm. There's a
We
lot of
know
shit that needs to
that
tie up and disappear.
yeah, we know that the Rebels crew are clearly known to Leia,
Yeah.
and Leia being a big part of the sequels,
Mm-hmm.
and us not seeing any of the Rebels crew
Mm-hmm.
is not a good sign for their chances of getting out of this battle with Thrawn in one piece.
Nope.
Our best bet is they beat Thrawn and they go, right, we're retiring, and they all go to join Ahsoka on this
Yeah.
planet to live
To
there.
explore that galaxy.
Yes, that is the only way
That's
they get to live,
yeah. Yeah.
and also us not sitting going, why are they not helping stop the
Yeah.
First Order? That's
I
it.
I agree. Um I do think there's like this is what I think the film's gonna be. I everyone's already making the posters and making the prediction that the Mandoverse film is going to be called Heir to the Empire. It's going to be about Thrawn revealing himself for power and taking Thrawn down, and then that leading to the start of the First Order. That all needs to happen. Like you said, Ghost Crew, something has to happen to them, whether it's them disappearing off to a galaxy far, far away, or them dying. Um, Mandalorian stuff, like you could say that the Mandalorians are on Mandalore the whole time, just keeping to themselves. Like that's
Yeah.
not so stuff like Mando and Grogu, like you can hide them on Mandalore, and that's why they're not in the sequels. Maybe Sabine also ends up there, training with Grogu. Who knows? Um,
I don't think Sabine now is by this point, a trained Jedi who was also a rebel, lets the First Order get away with shit and doesn't get involved.
I would imagine so. I think she sticks with Ahsoka.
Just so we're completely clear, Sabine is the epitome of revolution and punk. She is an artist who wants to blow anything up that is fascist. She is punk rock.
Yeah. There is also a world where, like, we know that Luke started a school
Hmm.
and was training more than just Ben.
Yeah, it wasn't just Ben.
That could be where Ezra ended up, where Jason ends up, and then obviously all that shit went wrong.
Essentially.
There's a lot, but like you say, a lot of kind of loose ends to fill up before the sequels begin.
Yes.
I think Dave will manage it.
I hope so.
I trust in Dave to like pay off on these things. I'm going to be very shocked if this isn't Aboleth that he's set up.
A brilliant bait and switch.
It would, but I'd be very disappointed. And I just hope that, like you say, we said with Balin's recast, hopefully whoever picks up that mantle continues that story well and does Ray proud with the portrayal. Hopefully.
But yeah, overall, what you rating the series out of 10?
I actually could put this up at like a 9. Like I up there, like it's on par with Andor. And like to me, I would put it slightly above Andor over personal preference of I enjoy all the Ahsoka and mystical shit. But like for me, best Star Wars show, only just overtaking Andor. But like there's only like the small pacing issues and little like weird little things. But overall, like I didn't have many qualms with the series.
I think I'm almost the inverse of you there. I prefer Andor because, just some of them
Anarchy.
scenes are so yeah, they're so powerful and they're getting more
Oh,
powerful by the day. Rishi, you prick. Um So Andor is still clear for me. I'd probably have Ahsoka at like 7.5 to an 8 overall. I think there was definitely some trimming and tidying up to get it up a little bit higher, but overall, I very much enjoyed it.
Mm.